let's talk about the entire plot of Assassin's Blade Part 3, The Assassin and the Underworld. Of course, I'm a very big advocate for not reading Assassin's Blade first. I'm actually going to be referring to the first 3 books in the series regularly throughout this part. So if you have not read these 3 books, please turn away right now. You have been warned. Chapter 1, Selena is back at the Assassin's Keep with the letter of approval from the Mute Master for Arobynn. But as she enters into Arobynn's office, Wesley's there. Wesley's actually a bodyguard. He's not an assassin. So Selena goes in there all smug because she knows Arobynn expected her to fail. So she's really looking forward to seeing his face when she hands him this raving letter of approval. And then on top of that, she cannot wait to see his face when she also shows him the 3 trunks of treasure that's going to buy her her freedom. So she walks in, she hands him the letter, but Arobynn immediately goes into a power play. It's almost like he knew this was coming, and he pretends like he's busy with something else. He doesn't even acknowledge her. After reading, I think 3 documents, he finally looks at her letter of approval and then apologizes for what he did to her. He also says he wished that he could take it back, how he wished he had never done any of it, and how he hopes that she can forgive him. And because Arobynn and Selena have a really toxic relationship, also she's 16 years old, and this is a full-grown adult man who's totally taking advantage of her, but she starts to actually believe him. She's hesitant. She's not, fully trusting again, but she's starting to wonder, maybe he's really changed. Girl, please. So he starts showering her with gifts immediately, and she decides not to show him the 3 treasure chests and leave yet. Then Arobynn asks her to do her first mission since getting back. Now, let me tell you, I took a long time studying and analyzing what the whole political situation was and why she needed to kill this person, but in all reality, I don't think it's that necessary. All you need to know is that Adarlan is a kingdom, Melisande is another kingdom. The royalty at Melisande yielded to the King of Adarlan. And so the King of Adarlan lets them kind of run their kingdom, but he's still very much has a say in pretty much everything they do. Well, Melisande royalty wants to build a road in between Melisande and Adarlan, and this would be a very big deal, really good for trade, really good for the economy, if you will. So everyone's really excited about this, but apparently Donable is the person that Selena has to kill. And who Donable is someone who is trying to take advantage of this road to start doing slave trading and basically using this road to his advantage. Supposedly, a ton of people, including the royals of Melisande, are coming to Adarlan and they're going to party and they're going to have a great time. But Donable is here. All we know is that he's meeting with his secret partner 6 days from now in whatever place he's staying at, to exchange documents. And supposedly it is an extensive list of all the people in Adarlan opposed to the slave trade. We don't need to go into specifics, but basically Selena's assignment is to not only unalive Donable, but also Donable's partner. And then she needs to retrieve the documents. Actually, she doesn't need to kill Donable's partner, but it's a bonus if she does. But she has to retrieve the documents and give them back to the client. The client is Donable's ex-wife. So that's some juicy details right there. That's actually, would you believe it or not, that's quite the summary. This all seems pretty simple because we know exactly where Donable's going to be and what day the deal's taking place. So Selena's great, this is nothing. This is going to be so easy. But then, to make things even sweeter, Arobynn says, and you know what? I'm not going to take a percentage. Everything you make from this deal is going to be all yours. Man's really laying it on thick, if you ask me. So she pretends she's going to consider it, just to kind of also have a power play moment, I guess, but she's pretty set on taking this job. So she tells Arobynn she's going to think about it, and she decides to go back to her rooms. On her way there, she runs into Sam. We have a sweet and tender reunion that lasts about a couple seconds where they pretend they didn't miss each other and that they weren't worried sick about each other for the past 2 months. But of course it quickly turns into bickering because they are both being cagey about what they went through while the other person was gone. They are both
What was going on with you for the past 2 months?
And the other person's
I'm not telling you what went on with you.
And the other person's
I'm not telling you until you tell me.
So it's all Very childish, but you have to remember that these are teenagers. I easily get annoyed when reading Assassin's Blade because Sam and Selena can be really immature, but then I remember that they're literally like 16 and 17, and it just makes sense. So while Selena and Sam are bickering, a girl sticks her head outside of Sam's room. This is Lysandra. So Lysandra's a lot like Selena in the way that she was rescued and then also kind of like forced into an occupational lifestyle, except for Lysandra wasn't forced to become an assassin. She was forced to become a courtesan because she is supposedly one of the most beautiful human beings in all of Aderlin. Like, she's stunning, she's gorgeous. I mean, beautiful. But here's the thing, Selena hates Lysandra's guts. Like, listen, it's almost hysterical how much these girls hate each other. So it doesn't help that Lysandra is like all over Sam and is flirting with Sam this, Sam that, Sam, and it's driving Selena insane. And apparently Lysandra is coming of age soon, so she's gonna have her big bidding party, which is honestly really disgusting and I hate it. But Arobin is throwing a party to celebrate because apparently she's the most anticipated courtesan to be going onto the market. Sam has kind of been assigned to be her bodyguard until that day comes. So they're just, getting real cozy with each other, and Selena hates this, basically. Chapter 2, Selena wakes up to, surprise, surprise, even more gifts from Arobin, and so she tells Arobin that she will take the job. Now, it is 5 days before Donable's going to be meeting with his business partner, and also all the people from Melisande are coming into Aderlin today, so things are about to get crazy. We're actually gonna skip that day and we're gonna go to the next day. So we are now 4 days out from Donable meeting with his business partner, and Selena is getting fitted for a killer new assassin fit. And based off its description, it sounds like a really cool outfit. Arobin is at her fitting, of course, just kind of making sure that everything is up to par. It's also a very expensive suit we're finding, and he's paying for it. And then he says that Sam's going to be getting a new fit as well, but Arobin's forcing Sam to buy his. So this is another situation where we see that Selena is definitely Arobin's favorite. Arobin then leaves Selena to kind of finish her fitting without him because he has other business to attend to, I suppose. And Selena takes this opportunity to ask the designer who's currently doing the fitting right now if he could incorporate spider silk into the new assassin gear. And she says she wants it right over the heart of the suit. And the designer is honestly just thrilled that he gets to put his hands on spider silk and actually use it. So he says, absolutely, consider it done. After Selena finishes up her fitting, she runs into Sam in the hallway. He confronts her. He's super ticked off that she's been accepting all of these gifts from Arobin after everything that Arobin put them through, specifically her. Then Selena's like, if you knew what I went through, you wouldn't criticize me for taking gifts. She's just making the most of a crappy situation in her mind. She makes also some backhanded comment about, at least he got to stay at the guild. He then says that he wishes he'd been miles away from the guild, and that when Arobin asked for his forgiveness and asked what his price would be, instead of saying all these fancy little gifts, Sam made Arobin Hamel take an oath that he would never put a hand on Selena again to hurt her. Now, this actually makes Selena feel really, really bad because she's like, oh, I guess me taking all these nice gifts is kind of shallow, because Sam, instead of asking for his debt to be free or asking for his next suit to be free or all these other things, instead the price of his forgiveness was her protection. Big sad. So then Selena just starts missing how it was easy to hate him, but now it is not so easy to hate him, and that just makes her hate him more. So if that isn't complex, I don't know what is. Now, later that night, Arobin is taking Selena to the theater, which, from the first couple books, our girl loves all things fine art, especially music and the pianoforte. But as excited as she is, her excitement gets a little less excited when she finds out that they're going to be going with Lysandra and Sam as well. Chapter 3, Selena's at the theater living her best life. Also, take note that this is the exact same theater that the King of Aderlin has shut down when they mourned the people of Eelway. This is that same exact theater. So, Selena is up in Arobin's box because he's a fancy man and he has his own box at the theater. And as she's sitting up in the box, she's looking down at the crowd and she sees Donable. He has security and nothing that worries her too much, but she can tell that they're attentive and well trained. So it's nothing she hasn't dealt with before, but she'll have to be careful. Then she accidentally makes eye contact with Sam. And so she just says the first thing that comes to her mind, which is, "You look handsome." To which Sam responds, "You look beautiful, though I bet you already know that." Yes, she does. Then there's this really sweet moment where Selena's like, yeah, the dancing was good, but she's just captivated by the music. It really moves her. She really connects with it. And then after the show, when they all get back to the Assassin's Keep, Selena sneaks into this room, I guess, that's not very used. It's just kind of off to the side. And she starts to like try to recreate the music from her head, like from what she remembered. And obviously it's just a piano and not like a full piece orchestra. So she's like doing her best. She starts to get frustrated because she can't remember the melody and she can't get it just right. So she goes to storm out of the room and go back to her bedroom to just head to bed for the night when she runs into Sam in the hallway. He had been listening to her play, but she's been caught in a vulnerable moment and she's used to being like some hardcore killer assassin chick, so she doesn't like that he caught her in a vulnerable moment, and she just starts like chewing him out. In an interesting shift of conversation, she then tells him about her mission with Donable and says, you know what, I could use some help. Do you want to maybe help me with this mission? I'll let you have a cut. And he agrees. Chapter 4, it's officially 3 days until Donable meets his business partner, and Sam and Selena are going to scope out the place that Donable's staying. There are guards everywhere, and they're a little more well-trained than she thought based off the ones that she saw at the theater. And they start talking game plans. They basically have 2 things they absolutely need to figure out in the next 3 days. The first one is when they're meeting, because all they know is the day. So they want to know the time more specifically so they can get really strategic about their planning. But the other one that they don't necessarily need to know, but would be really helpful to know, is who in the world is Donable's business partner. Like, that is still very much a mystery. As they're talking about all this, they notice one of the bodyguards leaves the house and starts walking down the street. And this is abnormal, so they decide to follow him. They follow him all the way to a tavern, and they just hang out and they wait for him, and he finishes drinking, and then he goes back to the place. And they're like, that was odd, but okay. Now, while they're waiting for this bodyguard to finish drinking in the tavern to see if maybe he's meeting with anyone, they're talking about a couple things. First of all, they're talking about how it's been nonstop pouring rain and how it's most likely going to continue pouring rain for a very long time. Then on top of that, the streets have been having regular festivities in them. Remember I told you Melisandre's here, so we're just going to party it up like every single day. And the party don't stop just because of the rain, okay? They're having the time of their lives. But because of that, the King of Aderlin is having the sewage all dammed up so that it can fill with rainwater, and then eventually when the rain starts to calm down, they're going to break the dam, and so all of the water is just going to flush out the sewage system into like some body of water, I guess. So anyways, all that happens. They don't really learn much except for maybe like what the rotations are of the security, and they get more information on what the security is going to look like the day of the deal. So they head back to the Assassin's Keep, and once Elena gets back to her room, she realizes she has some more gifts from Arabin, so she's going through all of them, but then she gets to one gift, and it's not actually from Arabin, it's from Sam. It is piano sheet music of the music that was playing at the theater. See, as a musical person, that's the most romantic thing ever. I don't care what you say. Later that night, Sam and Selena are actually going to some sort of like ball for the upper class, specifically to celebrate the moon. I don't know. It's not really important, but they're going to some sort of festivity tonight, and Donable is going to be at the festivities as well. So they're hoping that they'll find out who his partner is based on who he gravitates towards. They get there, Selena thanks Sam for the music, and they just continue to dance together while keeping an eye on Donable. Unfortunately, he doesn't actually gravitate towards anyone. He's just obsessed with the courtesans. But Selena's like, oh, he likes young women? I have an idea. And let's just say Sam does not like this idea. Chapter 5, Selena's solution is to go up to Donable, acting like some dumb blonde who's like super timid and has like a big crush on him, and she flatters him a ton, and she's like, oh, my uncle's a merchant and he speaks so highly of you and blah blah blah. It's literally so disgusting and weird because he's like obsessed with her in half a second, and when she can tell that he's like very clearly interested in her attention, she does the whole, oh, we would love to have you join us at the theater. And she specifically says, at the theater 3 nights from now, which is the night he's supposed to meet with his partner. And he reveals that he has business to tend to at 7:30, so she and her uncle can pick him up in their carriage at 8:30 that night. So she's like, okay, great. Like, she now knows that they're meeting at 7:30. So she thanks him for being so willing to stoop so low, to go to the theater with her and her uncle, and how it means the world to them. And as she's walking away, she makes eye contact with the ex-wife. Mind you, the ex-wife is the one who's paying her to take out her husband, okay? Or her ex-husband. And Selena thinks that she has a look of regret on her face. And Selena's like, well, it's too late for that now. I need to get my bag. And your ex-husband's also trying to deal in slaves. I have no qualms or guilt about unaliving this man. She makes her way back to Sam and she tells him everything that she found out. As much as he didn't like her plan, he's very proud of her for figuring it out. And then they start to dance the night away. But then Selena sees a very handsome man walking into the party. And he makes his way over to Selena and asks her to dance. But Sam gets jealous and basically tells this man to back off. But then the handsome, mysterious man, he has a buddy next to him who steps in and is like, basically tries to scare off Sam. And it's this really awkward, weird, intense moment. Mysterious handsome man and the super tense best friend of the mysterious man end up walking away because Sam is clearly very upset and they decide that it's not worth their time. Guys, it was Dorian and Kale. It was Dorian and Kale. And the crazy thing is that if you read Assassin's Blade first, it would have just seemed like a really random moment, but it's actually really funny when you know who it is. And that's Dorian and Kale. Sorry, that just cracks me up. Chapter 6, it is the next morning, and it's officially 2 days till Donovan meets with his partner. That morning, Selena does some training at the Assassin's Keep, but of course she learned all this cool new stuff from the Silent Assassins Guild, so she's showing off all of her new skills. And then at the very end of it, as her and Sam are kind of walking back to their rooms after training, they start talking about their mission. Selena wants to head back to the place to scope one more time, but Sam has to be on guard duty for Lysandra's bidding rehearsal. So she said that she's going to try to sneak in alone and get her eyes on the documents and also find out which room his office it is in by like peeking through all the windows. So later that night, Selena's at Donable's place, and it's significantly less guarded, so she figured that wherever Donable is, he just brought more of security with him. So she's going from rooftop to rooftop, and eventually she does look through a window, and she not only sees what's very clearly an office, but she sees a bunch of documents and papers laying out on the desk, and she's like, could these be the documents that I need to retrieve? Because that would just make her life way easier. So she starts like hopping from rooftop to rooftop, and then she gets onto the rooftop of Donable's place, and she scales down the side of the house till she gets to the window, pries it open with a knife, and literally the second she steps her foot on the floor, she's attacked. There were 2 guards hiding in the office waiting for her to come through the window, but she's able to take them down when 3 more come into the room, and then she gets the good old chloroform treatment and passes out. Selena wakes up later and she is in the sewer. One of Donable's bodyguards is there, and he tells her that they have been aware of her and her buddy Sam spying on the place. And she may be good, but she's not that good. So literally everything they've done, every time they've been like sneaking around, like the security has been fully aware that they've been scoping out the place for the past 3 days. And he just has 2 questions for her, which is, why did you choose to go into that room specifically? And where is your friend? She makes some snarky comment, and then he goes, you know what, scratch those other 2 questions. I just want to know who hired you. And then she's like, oh, what, are you going to try to torture the answers out of me? And he says, no, I don't need answers. They would just be nice. He's like, I have no qualms just like ending your life right here and now. So she starts to question like, oh, then what am I doing down here? Turns out they've been damming up the sewers to collect all the rainwater so that they can flush out the entire sewage system. Yeah, the dams are being broken this evening. Actually, they're being broken in like the next minute or 2. So the bodyguards have tied her ankles in her hands and put her in a chair in the sewage system, and they just get up and leave. Within 2 minutes of them leaving, the sewage water is already up to her waist. I'm literally everything about this chapter just grosses me out. Thankfully, her new outfit had a bunch of hidden knives in there, so she's able to take them out and she's able to get rid of her bindings. The only issue is when she goes to the grate that's in the ground of the street above her, they've put something on top of it so she can't open it. So she decides to swim through Adderlin's waist down to the next closest grate. The only issue is that it is completely rusted shut. She starts screaming for help, but it's already started pouring rain outside, so clearly no one's going to be able to hear her. She tries to use one of her knives to open the grate, but it's not budging. So she kind of goes through this moment where she accepts that she's going to die. And then she says the most bonkers thing. The water would have taken her one way or another. Guys, do not read Assassin's Blade first. I don't like... There are so many one-liners and even paragraphs in this book that are insane. But if you read Assassin's Blade first, they mean nothing to you. Like, it just sounds like she's being melodramatic. But in all reality, she was supposed to die in the water when she was like 10 years old. So crazy. Anyway, so the water's up to her neck at this point. She hears Sam yelling her name. He runs up to the grate. He's trying to, with his own knives, pull the grate from the ground, but he also can't get it. And so her last words to Sam are, "Take my body home to Terrason." Chapter 8, plot twist. Those weren't actually her last words because she's not dead. Apparently, some woman saw Sam trying to open the grate in the streets and she brought out a crowbar, so thankfully she was there and had a crowbar for whatever reason. I'm not going to question it. Celaena's alive. I'm happy about it. And whatever fantastical version of CPR they teach the assassins at the Assassin's Keep, that's what he does, and he resuscitates Celaena back to life. He then carries her back to the Assassin's Keep, where she takes about a bajillion baths before she's so tired that she needs to crawl into bed. And honestly, I don't know if I would ever feel clean after being submerged in an entire town's sewage system. I'm not going to think about that any harder than I need to. But Sam comes to visit her while she's laying in bed resting, and he asks for what happened the 2 months she was gone. And she finally tells him. I don't know why she was being so cagey about it. So she basically tells him the entire plot of the assassin and the healer and the assassin in the desert. Then she lets him know that as part of their mission, not only are they going to retrieve those documents, and they're going to kill Donable, and they're going to kill Donable's partner, but she's also going to be killing the bodyguard who left her in the sewage to drown. Chapter 9, Celaena, with her newfound courage, marches into Arobyn's office, gives him her 3 treasure chests, and just tells him that she's no longer in his debt. She still wants to work with him, but she doesn't want to be owned by him. Like, she wants to be more of an employee, but she wants to be her own person. Surprisingly, he's very calm about this, and he's like, "Oh, well, of course I'm sad because you're my best assassin, but I totally understand. Best of luck on your mission." Very surprising, not at all what we expect from Arobyn in the slightest. So she leaves that meeting with Arobyn, she meets up with Sam, they're doing some final planning for their mission. Also, there's way more guards than usual because Celaena snuck in and now they felt the need to up security. And while they're talking these last second plans, Sam congratulates her on being a free woman and paying off her debt to Arobyn, and then tells her that he also plans to be free. He is going to Eelway in 2 weeks to start basically a franchise of the Assassin's Guild. Like, Arobyn's still gonna own it, but Sam's gonna run it in his place. Celaena does not handle this news well in the slightest. Tells Sam that he can't leave, but Sam tells her that the reason why he's doing it is because every single day since she left, he has been fighting the urge to kill Arobyn. And he needs to leave before he does anything rash. And when she's like, "Get over it," like, "I'm over it," and he's like, "No, you don't understand. I can't get over it because I love you." And then he says, "I'm not going to ask you to choose between me and Arobyn because I wouldn't be able to bear the heartbreak of you choosing him." But then Celaena tells him that she chooses Sam. Chapter 10, Celaena and Sam kiss. So sweet, so cute. Celaena's first kiss with the first love of her life. And it's Sam. Tender, sweet, loving Sam. But tomorrow's the big day, so they have to stay focused. So they go to bed to get ready for the next day. Flash forward to 2:30, the day of the deal. Sam and Celaena have 5 hours before the meeting takes place, and they are outside scoping the area. They decided that Celaena is going to wait towards the servants' corridor back door, and she's going to wait until a maid comes to throw the trash out, and then she's going to sneak in behind her and then hide in the wine cellar until 7. That's when Sam is going to start a fire as a distraction, and hopefully that's going to thin out security while Donoble is meeting with his partner. So all of this goes according to plan, but 15 minutes before 7, Selena actually gets a good opening to go up to the office. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to get in there early and try to get my eyes on these documents. So she goes up there, she's looking all around for them, and she can't find the documents anywhere. They're not just like sitting out on the desk like they were the day before. But as she's snooping around the room, she basically finds a loose floorboard. She pulls it up, she pulls the documents out, and she starts to read through them. And she's a little confused because it's a lot of maps and charts and names in what looks like the entire plan for the slave trade in Melisande. So she's looking through these documents, basically trying to make sense of them, when she hears a noise down the hall. Donoble and his partner are coming into the office. Chapter 11, she basically stuffs the documents into her suit and then hides in a closet in the office. Her plan is to take them both out while they're in there to talk about the documents, because the guard is only going to be on the outside the door, and she's going to try to take them out before the guard notices anything's wrong. So they both come into the office, and she doesn't recognize the partner at all. And after some small talk, Donoble's like, all right, let's get down to business. And he goes to pull up the loose floorboard to get the documents. And the second he realizes they're not there, Selena hops out of the closet. She unalives Donoble. She hears Sam's distraction take place. It was supposed to be a fire, but it's something more akin to a bomb. The partner, however, the second she jumped out of the closet, he booked it. And he is very, very fast. So Selena runs out of the place and she starts chasing this partner down the street. As she's running out there, she runs into the bodyguard who left her in the sewage system, and she goes to unalive him as well. And with his last breaths, he says, Donoble loved this country. You don't know anything. And then he dies. Selena continues to run down the street to chase after the partner, and sure enough, one of the corners he turns around ends up leading him to a dead end. So she's basically got him cornered. But right as she goes to get him, he, with a match, catches all the documents he was holding on fire, because I guess he brought some to the partner meeting as well. He catches them on fire, and then he drinks a vial, which makes him unalive himself. And as Selena's running up to try to grab and retrieve the documents, or what's left of them, she sees that it isn't maps and charts of Melisande, but of Adarlan. And she's starting to wonder if maybe there was way more to this business partner deal than Arobynn led her to believe. In a very interesting move on Selena's part, she decides to let these documents burn, and she goes back to find Sam. When she gets back to Donoble's place, it is completely burnt to ashes. Sam's distraction just caught the entire house on fire, and Selena, unfortunately, I guess the documents at some point fell out of her suit, or she left them in the closet, I'm not quite sure, but the documents also went up in flames. She asked Sam if he's okay, and he said that someone shot an arrow at his heart, but the only reason he survived is because there was a block of spider silk sewn into his suit right over his heart. Guys, do you remember when she asked the designer to sew it in? She wasn't asking to sew it into her own suit. She was asking to have it sewn into Sam's. That's so sweet. I love that. Chapter 12, Selena is back at the Assassin's Keep, and she debriefs Arobynn on the mission. But he is ticked off and basically tells her that she is not getting paid a cent, most likely, because she had 2 jobs, and potentially a third. Retrieve the documents, kill Donoble, kill the partner. All the documents were burnt to ash. Donoble's body was left in the fire, and there's no evidence of a body. The only thing she succeeded was the death of the other partner, and technically he took his own life. She didn't even take it. And then on top of that, that was just going to be a bonus. That wasn't actually a part of her mission. And then this is where things get really crazy, because Selena asks him, she kind of confronts him. She's like, what actually is going on? Like, something in this isn't adding up. And then Arobynn reveals that there was never a trade agreement. The real meetings have been going on in the Glass Castle with the King of Adarlan. Donoble and his partner were fighting to stop the slave trade agreement from going through between Melisande and the King of Adarlan. Arobynn knew all of this, but as punishment for freeing all 200 slaves at Skulls Bay, he made her kill the only 2 people who were trying to keep the slave trade from happening in her home kingdom. If that isn't a different type of twisted, I don't know what is. Selena, out of anger, starts to leave, but right before she does, she turns around and she gets in the last word and tells him that her Assyrian mare, the one that she got when she was in the Red Desert, she sold it, and all the earnings are going straight to Arabin's account, and it will cover Sam's debt entirely. Her and Sam will be leaving, and they will no longer be staying at the Assassin's Keep. And then because Arabin can't let anyone have the last word, he then shares that he used all 3 of her treasure chests full of treasure to win Lysandra's bidding, knowing that that would be, in Selena's opinion, the worst possible thing he could have spent her money on. And then she leaves and she gets Sam and she lets him know that his debts are paid, and they move out of the Assassin's Keep into their apartment, which is Selena's apartment from Heir of Fire. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed part 3, which is the 4th short story in Assassin's Blade. Subscribe if you want to be notified whenever part 4 of Assassin's Blade goes up, or of course, in the meantime, you can enjoy any of my other Sarah J. Maas related videos. I will see you soon.